why. If people are eating the white ice cream cone instead of the pink one, we don't need a theory, we don't have a theory, all we know is it works. And there's a lot of new statistical stuff around multivariate testing where you're testing a number of variables at the same time. So in this article, if you go to Amazon, you see a page. Your friend goes to Amazon, they see a slightly different page. No one is seeing the same page. Their analytics are reviewing the whole thing in real time to see what makes people buy and what makes people don't. That's one lesson. There are other lessons from advertising, from games, from marketing, where we ask people, what does it take to get people to change their minds? Why aren't they doing something? In the old version, it's why aren't they putting money in the slot machine? Why aren't they buying this product? We want to use some of those lessons and techniques to figure out why people aren't taking their medications and what we can do to help them take their medications. Our flagship product is a consumer-based app. It's on the App Store if you want to download it and take it for a spin. We have a light version that doesn't need to worry about HIPAA so far, so you won't see all of these features if you download it. But it serves as a reminder, an encourager and tracker, telling people what medicines to take and how, based on their prescriptions. So everything is connected to a server. It's in process of integrating with the pharma world so that the patient basically has their medical regimen on their device, which reminds them and gives them a little nudge and a little encouragement and records what they're doing, which is where Proteus comes in, because at the device level, I'll go ahead and skip this one, I've already talked about that. There are a number of different things that patients need to do, repetitive health regimens, not just taking medicines, but certainly taking blood pressure, glucose level, even things like exercise and diet eventually can be part of an entire regimen. So if you trust a patient to click, they might, that might be one of the slipping points. If there's a confirmation that they opened a pill vial or actually took their medication, then it's a different point. But we're also finding a lot of the slip up is just human factors. You know, the what they used to talk about, farfignugan, you know, just making the whole interaction something that's natural and pleasant and encouraging. You know, a lot of people want to take their medications, but their pill box is not in their pocket. They left it at home, or they didn't fill it, or they're taking multiple medications and they don't recognize them. So there's a lot of design that needs to be done. Fortunately, these smartphones are in most people's hands. The adoption is going way up, and for all intents and purposes, within a few years, almost everyone will have a smartphone in America. It reaches people all the way down to 3 and at all age groups, although there's obviously an adoption lag for seniors. But it doesn't even necessarily need to be a smartphone. In a few years, future phones will all be running HTML5. We can run web apps that will achieve most of the same functionality. So if any technology can reach people, it's going to be these smart devices that are and we're also reaching out on the enterprise side, as you can see in this slide, to the pharmacy world and the brand world, because ultimately you can't charge patients to do things that are going to be better for them. If you look in the store, the pill boxes that are there are all $3, and people don't even buy them. They're still in their vials. There are a lot of people with financial stake in people changing their behavior, from employers to drug companies, pharmacies, and so on. And we're also working on devices, so if people don't make these fast enough, we'll have to make some of them. There's a need for working on dispensing devices. The final 2 slides are just to indicate that we have a server side that when we are ready for HIPAA and consider whether we need to go through FDA approval and so on, a provider can also see this information and tell which of their patients are compliant or not. Pharmacies are getting paid by the federal government for intervention, for example. Hospitals are potentially going to be cut off from reimbursement for readmits if it's a problem they could have been tracking. So they may want to check that their recently discharged or transitional patients are taking the medications they're supposed to. Okay, that's about it for now. I'll be around for any questions. Thanks.
Okay, well, thanks, Gary. So are you happy now that things are on the way to being solved? So as you know, there's an ocean of problems, and these are beacons of light in there. These are ways in which technology is getting harnessed to address specific problems. So let me start off by asking Scarlett the first question, and the others should feel free to jump in. And this is more a curiosity question on my part. How much of what you're able to do with your technology is personalizable in terms of the medications provided to patients, and how much is your technology able to follow that patient through after dispensing?
Obviously, the capsules and the tablets that are packaged up aren't personalized to the patient because they come standard from the manufacturer that way. But the oral syringe filler and the IV syringe or IV bags, those are all personal. They're down to milligrams per kilogram, nanograms per kilogram. They're very personalized, patient-specific doses. The equipment that I have only tracks it where it's dispensed and tells me where it's gone to. Then we have a hospital health system that reads the barcode when it's administered to the patient. So between the two systems, or actually 4 systems because there's 3 down in my flight, we can watch where a product goes to the patient, is administered. If it's not administered when it comes back, I can track that it came back, went out, came back, went out. So.
Okay, and most of your dispensing is in-house, so...
For us,
yeah.
all of our dispensing
all of it's in-house. So you don't have a problem with the first part of Gilt's curve, which is people getting their medication. And you probably...
No, we still have a problem with people getting their medication. I just did, I belong to the Medication Safety Committee, and
so
one of our things that we're really working on is the fact of administration errors. And the biggest majority of administration errors in medication is the patient doesn't even get the med. The nurse might document they gave it, but I'm getting it back. If I'm getting it back, the patient could not have gotten that. So
even the pros can't get it right,
it's still a problem. Well, there's so much interruption and confusion that goes on when you're working. It's real easy to
So your adherence problem actually begins before even the patient. It starts before then.
Yep.
So let me extend that situation a little bit further. How would you see using some of the technologies you're hearing about in that system? Because you really have major infrastructure out there. And the other 3 panelists are representing, well, actually Rashan's a little different, but we're looking at technologies that are more out in the, that they're more in the full model. So
you're looking at stuff more outside the community.
Right. So, but I'm asking you to think more broadly in terms of just the technology. If you had a pill jogger, or if you had a Proteus enabled medication, I don't know what the terminology is, Nancy, but Proteus inside.
The pill jogger, within the hospital, we kind of have an idea of that as far as jogging your memory to take it, knowing your therapies, because we have an integrated healthcare record system. It comes up and it tells the nurse you missed these meds or whatever, put barcoding, scan them in. It still doesn't tell you whether or not it actually got stuck in the patient's mouth, or the patient actually swallowed it. That's another problem. Oftentimes we'll pocket things. Yeah. I need to know more about this because I will say when you tell me that you're going to swallow another little device and it's going to sit inside you, how long does that device stay in there? And do I really want to swallow a foreign object and have it inside my body? I like the idea that it can track all these different pieces of data that we need, but that other side kind of makes me nervous.
So Nancy, you want to respond to that? And also, I'll add a corollary question to you then is, how much are you looking at the in-hospital market?
Okay. Well, this is one of those areas where it's really important to research your market audience as well, because when I first heard about Proteus, I was so excited to eat the technology. I don't know, some cool stuff.
I'm just
Actually, not today.
Not today.
I have taken several hundred of them. Yeah, they're entirely made out of particles that you get in food. It's basically a really, really tiny multivitamin. You kind of think of it like that. So, I mean, the basis of it is just silicon, which is sand. We've been eating that since we were making bread. as far as what we're looking to use it for, I mean, ideally, every medication ever has to have one in there. But we're partnered with pharma companies as well as consumer device companies to kind of look at both markets, both the consumer space and the behavior change, as well as the pharma side, and looking at adherence and R&D for them.
Good.
So just to piggyback a little bit on the direction that you're going here, and I think it's popped up a couple of times as we've mentioned it, what is the behavior change everybody's after here that they're really focusing on? Because I think it's a little bit more than just we need an alarm because we don't remember to take our medications. There's lots of interesting data out there, and if you take a look at the whole channel, right, there's 20% of prescriptions written never make it to the pharmacy. There's an 11% abandonment rate that never get picked up once they do get to the pharmacy. So once we start, we haven't even gotten to patient adherence yet, and we're missing 33% of our sales out of the pharma industry.
And we heard from Scarlett that happens inside the hospital as well.
Exactly.
All kinds of reasons.
Right. We have patients taking oral oncology drugs that are only 70% adherent. Right. Gleevec is one of those examples. Right. Where is there a more compelling story? Right. Same thing in the HIV space. Yet on the background of some interesting studies that were done by Richard Lester in Kenya, right, a once-a-week text message, right, was enough to increase adherence to HIV medication, right, which has to be taken daily. Right, and this was actually proven through hair samples and really done to a far extent, which tells me that the connection, the accountability that you're generating between people when you have a device or an app that's really focused on the right behavior is not the alarm and the reminder, but some other level of behavior change that you're after. And whether that's accountability, whether that's some kind of engagement people feel with that, but it's something more than just, okay, I'm forgetting to take my medication.
So let me sort of pivot that to Gil here. I mean, we've got a sense of the mechanics of how your device works, or your product works, I should say. It's like a system, maybe that's a better term here. You want to speak a little bit to what are you trying to, what's the handle that's underlying all of this behavior or dysfunctional behavior that you're trying to grab onto?
There is no one single reason why people don't take their medications, and there's no one single thing that is going to make anyone take all of their medications. If you look, for example, at the game, let's just take a totally different area, because tens of millions of people are planting fake crops as we speak who are not taking their medications that are much more important repetitive activity. Zynga, which is voicing this in the world, is very well attuned both to this whole AV stuff, but also to behavioral psychology and behavioral economics. And what is it? And it's different people. There are different kind of people that are motivated by different kinds of things. Some are motivated by shame or guilt or fear. Some by a sense of accomplishment. These are the positive motivations in the sense that they will have an effect. Some people intellectually do not believe that their medications are helping them. So they need some education or convincing if they can be convinced. There are some people who simply need more feedback because, with high blood pressure or high cholesterol, these are both silent killers. You feel worse when you're on the medication than when you're not. And by the time you feel worse, it's too late. You're in the hospital. So the natural human feedback that we get from other things, if you exercise, you get the feedback that you're stronger and you feel better. If you take your blood pressure medication, you don't feel better. But you could get feedback by seeing what your numbers are and how your behavior affects your numbers. Or maybe a study or some encouragement from your family that they're glad that you're going to live longer. So there's an element of missing feedback. That's another one. And it's often different for different people. Some people are living for their family, and they need their family to tell them that they're important. Other people have a financial stake.
So is your approach more of a platform, you would say, where you're trying to, if you could learn or parse the individual habits of individual people or the individual inclinations of individual people, that you can personalize the pill jogger to them?
Yes, that's the goal. One of our old slides said that everything that works, we're not doctrinaire. If someone comes up with a better theory of how to incentivize people through coupons or cash payments or a text message or someone blaming them for something, we'll do our best to put it on the platform.
So let me take this to Roshan now. You're seeing a lot of the behaviors that are on the other side of the fence, so to speak. Actually, why don't you speak to adherence for a second? Are you seeing anything about adherence in your conversation, in the chat or Twitter or whatever you want to call it? Question box? I don't know what you call that.
It's needle.
In the needle, okay. And if not, what are the key things that you're seeing? What are the concerns of the people who are prescribing the medicines?
I think pharma was really surprised at the types of questions that providers had. They skew toward the outcomes end of the spectrum. So I started the company in Minnesota, which is where I was living before I got into the incubator in New York. Minnesota has a high Somali population in the city of Minneapolis. We got this flurry of questions from a variety of pharmacists about education materials that could be translated into Somali. So one pharma company stepped up and provided a booklet that a pharmacist that is doing MTM with patients who are illiterate can actually scratch off the FACES scale so that as they come back for follow-up, the provider can actually track how they've been progressing with their pain management. I mean, think about all of the obstacles when you're dealing with a translator to even deal with the patient. The patient can't speak English, the patient can't write their native language, but you're prescribing a narcotic because they've had a surgery. Pharma companies were very surprised. We started with an inner city hospital, so there's a lot of questions about translation, a lot of questions about ACOs, what resources could be brought to bear, questions about best practices. What are other institutions that are facing this same challenge doing? Healthcare providers know these drug companies are calling on institutions around the country. Why reinvent the wheel? I mean,